part series, the chakra painting series. So today we're doing the sacral chakra. And before we get started, I just want to revisit the root chakra and talk a little bit about what we did there in that last video. So we painted the root chakra, basically laying the foundation for our paintings. And the root chakra is all about grounding. It's about the thing that you made, or the thing that you are, like who you are, your seat on the earth. So now we're doing the sacral chakra, which is all about creating. It's got this awesome moon in the middle here, which is speaking to its connection to the feminine energy, to creative energy. So that's what we're up to today. We're creating. We're in the process of creating. The root chakra was about what we made, and now the sacral chakra is about what we're making. So if you're ready to paint, let's get to it. I already have my paints all set out, so I'll show you what I've got going on. Here I've got my paints. I've got orange, I've got some yellow, and I've got some white. So I'm going to be using just these three colors to get this on the canvas. So we're going to start with our biggest brush today. So hopefully you have your brushes in your water cup already. And to lay down my background, I'm going to use my biggest brush. So I've got my big daddy brush here. That's going to do most of my covering. We're going to start with, let's make sure the mic's on. Okay, the mic is on. So we're going to start with our orange paint. I'm going to take that big old brush there. I dabbed it. Can't see my palette, but I dabbed it on my napkin there. And I'm going to dip it in that orange paint. And then we're just going to get that background in there, just ready to go. Just really just slap that paint right on the background. And then once you've got the paint on the canvas, then you can start moving it around the canvas. So our first task right now is to just get this canvas completely covered. We're not going to worry about it being super even. We're not going to worry about those streaks that are coming out. We're just going to cover our canvas in orange paint. And then we'll give it a little bit to dry. We can talk a little bit more about the sacral chakra while it's drying and what that's all about. So once you've got, see, it's super streaky, and it's going to be like that. Your first layer is going to be like that, so don't worry about it. Once we've got the front completely covered, then we can hit those edges. So I'm just going to paint all the edges of my canvas because I'm going to hang them just as is, bare, sans frame on the wall. And just leave it there like that. So if you're still covering your canvas, don't worry. Keep going. Cover that canvas. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about what we've got going on here. So if you were following my posts, you know that we are working with our three colors. We're working with orange, a little bit of yellow today to give our chakra that fiery warmth, and that's going to speak to our next chakra, the solar plexus, which we'll do next week. And then we've got our white paint. So that's going to draw on our chakra. Now, if you wanted to, if you saw my last video, I didn't bring it out. You might notice that I put some black paint too, and of course, I've got Oh, there it is. Woo! Here she goes. I put some black paint around my chakra to kind of make it pop. So if you wanted to continue that sort of design and put it on this chakra to make it match this one, then you can. If not, you can leave it with the white. Sometimes I like to, depending on your mood, maybe you want it to look a little bit more embossed, and the black will give you that sort of pop, that posterized look. So those are the colors we're working with today. And then we already used our big brush to cover our canvas with orange paint, and now it's drying. And then after that, I have, that big brush is a 2-inch size brush. I also have a 1-inch size brush. And the bristles on this brush are a little softer. So it just like covers, like goes on top of paint a little better, like already dried paint. And the bristles are nice for getting the paint down on bare canvas. So that's what we'll use next. And then of course we have our napkin. So I just use that to clean off the brush in between colors. And also today, so you'll notice we have that big circle in our finished product there. We have that big old circle. That is the one that we used last time. So that's our bowl that made our circle for our root chakra. And then we're going to use another stencil. So I'm using a cup. Maybe you have like a smaller teacup lying around. Maybe you have a smaller drinking glass. And that I'm going to be using the bottom to get that little moon in there on the center. So as we're getting the background in, if you want to find a smaller circle, that would be helpful. If not, it's not impossible to use, and I can show you how to do that too, to use your fingers to get a somewhat nice circle in the center of your smaller circle. So again, you don't need to use the other cup if you don't want to. Makes things a little bit easier. Okay, let's see. We'll check that. Still pretty wet. So another little tool that we can use, and I used this in the last video, is our hair dryer. So we can use that to get that background on there really quickly. So if you have any questions, there's a little live chat comment thingy going on, which is why I did that. So if you want to leave a comment, give me some words of encouragement, whatever you want to do, leave it on that little comment section, and then I can answer you. So I'm going to plug in. Oops. There we go. Plug in my hair dryer here. And I'm just going to give that a quick little dry so we can put on our next background layer. All right, we're drying. Okay, that should be good. There we go. That's much better. All right, so for the next layer, I'm going to be doing a little blending with the yellow and the orange. I'm using acrylic paint here. So if you are using something else, if you're using watercolor, if you're using colored pencils, like whatever, like if you have any questions about substitutions, feel free to leave a comment. I will totally address any questions that you have. Ooh, okay. So that's right. I'm gonna go to my smaller big brush. So this soft bristle brush. And feel free to use any size brush that you have. It doesn't have to look exactly like mine. Again, mine's a 1-inch. So if you have something around there, just on the bigger side, it's always nice for backgrounds. So I'm going to start with my orange, and I'm going to hit the edges, and I'm using the broad side of my brush. And if you can see, and I'll just make a mark right here, The broad side of my brush leaves like almost like a square like brush stroke. So I'm using that to my advantage. I like for my backgrounds to have some texture, to have some movement. I don't like them to be flat because this isn't like a graphic design thing. This is a painting and we want it to look like a painting. So brush strokes are good. We like brush strokes. So I'm just using the broad side of my brush and going every which way, kind of almost making these X brush strokes to add that texture, that movement. Again, the chakras are energy wheels, they're energy centers. So we want them to feel energetic. We want them to feel alive because they're alive inside of us. And maybe you're brand new to this whole chakra thing. And you're like, what is she talking about? What are chakras? So chakras are said to be along the spine of our bodies, right? They're along the center of our bodies, going all the way from the base of our spine to the crown of our head. This is the second chakra coming up from the base of our spine. The first one was the Muladhara chakra. This one's the Svadhishthana chakra. So this one is just a little bit above, right below the navel, just a little bit above the base of our spine. And it's responsible for our creativity, for our emotions. And that's what we're doing right now. We're creating. We're in the process of creating something right now. I'm just going to hit those edges again. And then I left the center untouched for the most part. And that's because I'm going to go into the yellow paint. I'm just going to use my brush that already has orange on it. And I'm going to dip into that yellow paint. And working from the center of my chakra, I'm going to, or from the center of my canvas, I'm just going to go back and forth every which way. So I have a little bit of a brighter orange working in the center, which is going to speak to that circle there. And I want it to blend in. I don't want it to be like a target or a ball in the middle. All right. So that is going to be it for our background. We have to let it dry. So while it's drying, while we're letting that second layer dry, we can maybe have a seat on our mat and maybe do one pose and like talk about why that pose like has something to do with the sacral. All right, so when we were talking about the Muladhara chakra in the last video, that's our root chakra, we talked about finding a comfortable seat. We were setting a foundation for practice. So if the root chakra is the foundation, we can think about these lower chakras, the lower three chakras, as maybe a house or a studio. So our foundation is rooted in the ground. The foundation holds up our house, holds up the floor to our house. And then maybe the sacral chakra can be the walls to that house. So the walls of our studio, the place in which we create things, in which we're making things. So you can think of it energetically as the process of creating, as maybe the person in their wood shop or in their she shed, wherever you make things happen. That's what the sacral chakra is all about. So for this, I would like to do Baddha Konasana, or bound angle pose. So for bound angle, especially if you're unpracticed. I'm on a rest day today, so I'm unpracticed today, so I'm very stiff in the hips. So I have some blankets here folded up, and you might have this. Of course, if you have blocks, you can always sit on a block. But since we're all at home and we probably do have blankets, I'm going to use these folded up blankets, and I have them folded up sort of like a rectangle and then stacked on top of each other to give me some height. And then we can sit on the stack of blankets, bring the soles of our feet together so they meet, and then we can pull our feet in towards our sit bones. We are holding our ankles with our hands, and then we're letting, and I don't know if it's going to happen for me today, but we're letting our knees drop down, simultaneously opening the heart, sitting ahead on our sit bones, kind of tilting our hips forward, and then letting the crown of our head reach up towards the sky and pushing our knees down with this, not with our arms, but with the strength of our adductor muscles, pushing our knees down and feeling that hip opener. So why is this a good pose for the sacral chakra? Well, I like to think of the sacral chakra as a womb, as a place where life is created, where new energy is created. So maybe the arms are like those walls that I was talking about before. You're kind of creating this safe area right here where the sacral chakra lives. And it's as you're dynamically pushing down into the earth, you're also trying to sit up. So you're bringing that energy up. So yeah, that's why I feel like it's a really good pose for the sacral chakra. Another reason I really like Baddha Konasana for the sacral chakra is because it's also a creative pose. Like there's a lot of ways that you can approach Baddha Konasana. You can add some variation by maybe folding forward into the pose, or maybe doing the curled variation where your head tries to meet your toes. And then another way is you can make it more passive. So if you had, a bolster, or if you have a couch cushion, we can always do the reclined version of Baddha Konasana, which is always so great and so relaxing. Great heart opener. So many ways, creative ways to approach that pose. All right, so let's go and see if our painting is dry. So here we are. Now we are back. Okay, so we'll check, and that's pretty dry. I think we're ready. We're ready to put some. So next part, we're going to use our stencil. So hopefully you found a stencil. And now I'm going to move towards our teeny tiny brush. So I've got this pointy little guy. Now in my previous post and in the description, I believe I did suggest whiteout. So if you were using like maybe, markers or some other kind of medium, hey, if you've got whiteout hanging around, why not, right? So it's already got a built-in brush. So I'm just going to use my white paint here, and I'm going to dab my teeny tiny pointy brush. Ooh, you can see that. Ooh, there it is, in the white paint. And then I'm going to kind of just twirl my paintbrush around so I get that point in the brush. And then I'm going to take that bowl. So we're using our bigger circle here. I'm going to take that bowl and I'm going to make sure it's on the center of my canvas by using my hand to sort of gauge where the center is on all sides. Seems about right. And then taking that pointy brush, I'm just going to follow along the edge of my bowl. All the way around. Just refilling paint as I need to. These tiny brushes don't hold a whole lot of paint, so you have to reload your brush frequently to get a nice even line. Boop. And there we go. We have our circle. So now I'm going to take my tinier circle. I'm going to put that one in there. So for this one, I'm using a cup. So the circle there is smaller than my other one. So I'm going to use the bottom of that cup. And this should be about the same size as like a drinking cup or something. We're using the bottom, so it's not like so terrible, you know, because you're not using the part that you drink out of. And again, if it's something you like, depending on the paint that you're using, just to be safe, you'll want to just give it a good rinse or a wipe with your napkin right away so that the paint doesn't stick to the cup. I'm using multi-surface paint right now because it's what I have, so I know that that'll stick to this cup, but this is a painting cup, so not worried about it. So I'm going to approximately find the center, and this part doesn't super matter, like if it's a little off center. You'd want it mostly in the center of the circle, but if there's a little bit of difference between the top and the bottom, not a huge deal. So looking here, and it seems like I'm in the center. I put 2 fingers on either side just to make sure. And now I'm going to cross my fingers internally and hope for the best. Or if you have like some thick parts, if the paint got away from you on some parts, that's okay. See, that's a hot mess of a circle, but I'm going to show you how you're going to be able to fix that afterwards. Because we're going to add a little bit of awesomeness. We're going to add some fire, some light, some heat to our painting using some yellow paint. So there's plenty of opportunity to fix the edges. Okay. And then for the center part, so for that, you could find yourself a smaller circle and go on there and try to do that, or you can take that same circle that you used and offset it a little bit. I'm just gonna see if going on the other side helps. Nope, that's no better. So I'm gonna offset it a little bit, just a little bit above, maybe like 1/3 of the way higher from the bottom, if you can see that. I'm just gonna make a little dot. There we go. So I set my cup just a little bit above the circle, same size. And now from there, go up just until the end. And that's not great, but we can always fix that. And I'm just going to go a little above there. There we go. So I'm just making a little C or a smiley face to kind of complete that moon, that crescent moon shape that I'm going for. And these symbols or these yantras, as they're called, are essential to the meaning of the chakra. And like we said before, the sacral chakra is all about feminine energy. It's about creativity. So that's why we've got a moon in the center of our chakra. So we've got that feminine moon energy going on there. It's awesome. All right, so now we've got our moon in. We are going to wait for that to dry before we go and fix anything. So we're going to start to work on those petals, the petals of the chakra. So the chakras have petals because they're like supposed to be these lotuses. And these lotuses at different stages of opening, different stages of enlightenment till we get to the crown chakra that has like 1,000 or more petals going around it. We're not going to paint 1,000 petals, but we're going to imply that there's an infinite number of petals in the last one. So here we go for the petals. So here's where the thing gets tricky, at least for me. Let's see. So I have this straight edge here, and I don't know if I'm overcomplicating this, but we'll see. So first we want to set these the top and the bottom petal. So I've got my straight edge. So this can be a ruler. I think in the last video I used a hole punch. Whatever you got, a piece of paper, whatever you have lying around that is a straight edge. I'm going to put it right in the center of my circle, and I'm just going to set up for these 2 points here. So the center, I'm going to say the center of my circle, almost like cutting your circle in half vertically, but we're not going to draw a line through it. We're just going to make 2 dots at the top and the bottom of our circle. And then I'm going to go about 4 fingers above. So depending on the size of your circle, you're going to want to make your petals that size. You don't want them to go past your canvas. So I'm just going to make a little dot about 4 fingers above, 4 fingers below. And then I'm going to leave that there. I want to find the horizontal middle of my circle. So I'm going to, again, take my straight edge across, find the middle, and I'm going to make a dot here and a dot on the other side. And then that's going to be where my 2 petals on the right and the left side meet. So for the next part, I want to find where the how thick my top petal should be, because that's going to inform how thick my other petals are. So I went from the top of my petal, from the top of this petal here, so this dot, I went a hand over. And again, I don't know if I'm overcomplicating, but so from that dot, I went a hand over from the top of my petal. And just going to make a dot over there so I know where it is. And then I'm going to go across my circle. And again, if you just want to go for it and make these petals, do it. I'm probably overcomplicating this. So I've got that dot there. So I'm going to say that that's about 3 fingers away from my center dot. And then I'm going to do another one here on the other side of that top center dot. So that's maybe, hopefully, telling me how thick my petal should be. So let's go for it. Let's give it a go. So coming from this top here, I'm going to make a smile and then a frowny face that's going to meet up with that dot. Smile, frown. And that's one side of my petal, almost like an S that's been stretched out. I'm going to go now the other side. I'm going to do a smiley face and then a frowny face. Oops, just missed the dot. That's probably And then we've got the other one. And then in theory, 2 petals of the same size should fit on the other sides. So we'll see. So I'm going to just take this line all the way down to the bottom, take this line all the way down to the bottom, my circle, and then that should give me the size for my bottom petal. Go there, I'm going to do a smile and then a frown or an S. Smile and then a frown. And again, we're going to be going back over this. So there is room for error. You can paint over. If you didn't like your first line, make another line. And when it's dry, we're going to add some detail that'll cover up any mess ups. All right. So there we are. Try to match that shape up a little better. Okay. And then I don't know why I have so much trouble with this one, but I always do. Okay. So now, in theory, these next petals should be approximately the same size as these 2 petals. So let's give it a go. Let's try it out. So we're going to go 4 fingers from the center in between these 2 lines. So we're going to go 1/4 of the way in. So I'm just going to make a little dot there so you see what I'm up to. And then I'm going to take my 4 fingers, my pinky through my index finger, and diagonally, I'm going to make another dot. And let's try that out. So we're going to do a frowny face and then a smiley face. I'm just wetting my brush here and reloading because I'm running out of paint. There we go. And then a smiley face, frowny face for our next petal. And hey, that doesn't look too bad. All right. All right. So this might be all right. Here we go. Okay, so for our next one, we want to go in the center of those 2 petals. We're going to go 4 fingers, make a dot, and then complete that side, frowny face, smiley face. Frowny face, smiley face. Hey, yo, there we go. Okay. And then let's go for the next one. So the other side we have to do. So we made that point in the center before. So now we're just going to go in the center of these 2 points, our top petal and that point in the middle. We're going 4 fingers, make a dot, and then we're doing a frowny face and a smiley face. Don't worry, I'm almost done saying frowny face and smiley face. And smiley face, frowny face. Oops. One more. Okay, so 4 fingers from the center of that space. I'm making a dot. Now for our last petal. Smiley face, frowny face. Frowny face, smiley face. Yes. Okay. So there we are. So imperfect, but it's there. And I'm going to show you how we're going to jazz that up next. We can go back into our little moon here and we can kind of just go back over it if you want with another coat of white. Just making sure that it's there and it's bold. And we're going to go in with some colors. Right. So now for this next part, I've got a smaller square. So I have this smaller square brush, and I like this to get into all the nooks and crannies, or just the smaller spaces of my canvas, especially in that little moon. You see that's going to come way in handy. So we'll start there since we started there before. You can just dip right into your yellow paint with your smaller square brush, or smaller brush if you have a medium-sized pointy brush, that'll work too. Use what you have. Got this. And now I'm going to go into the moon part, so into the crescent part. I'm going to leave that little part there orange. I just want to bring out that moon. I want that moon to pop. Filling that in. There we go. Okay. And then, as you see all along the edges of my petals, there's just like, some scratchy bits, some bits that I'd like to clean up. So I'm just going to go in there. And first I'm going to outline in yellow, covering up anything that I don't like in white, or covering up any of the white marks that I don't like. And I'm just outlining, sort of making a little border, so that when I go to make my sunburst, I'm not going past that white line. Decide later if you like that. Okay. So now, once I've got that nice little border set up, now I'm going to, just like we did with the background, I'm going to use the square shape of my brush to create texture. So now I'm using that square, and I'm just making little dashes, going back and forth, going from the center of my petals, or where the two petals meet, kind of working my way out. I'm gonna wet my brush a little bit for this. Not super wet, just keep that paint nice and loose, a little bit transparent. We're going to work back over this pretty quickly. We're going to meet up with it with some orange. So we're just going to try and go as quick as possible, making those X's so that it's still wet when we come back with the orange. Create a little blendy effect. All right. So once you've done that, just with that, you don't have to clean off your brush for this. You can just go right into that orange paint. I'm going to come back around the edge of my yellow, and I'm going to hit it with some orange.